Greetings programs, it's Adam with Errata Non Grata, and welcome to another video about the Atari 7800. Wanted to thank all of those who have subscribed to the channel after I did that Friendly Rebuttal video, but of course not everybody was a fan, and that's okay. But I still wanted to address a few things, and I guess defend my position as I ascertained there, and yes, I did get a couple of things a little bit maybe out of context or wrong there, and so I'll fess up to that. And like I said, it was a friendly rebuttal. I wasn't trying to slam Poger or anything like that. But one of the criticisms from that video was that I used some recent homebrews from the 7800 as opposed to just sticking to commercial games. Now, the reason why I disagree with that assertion that you can't use homebrews is simple. That during its commercial lifetime, the Atari 7800 between 1986 and 1990 only had 60 commercial releases. And as is well known, a lot of those did not take advantage of the hardware due to costs. For whatever reasons, the Atari under the Tramils did not want to always be doing 128 kilobyte or 144 kilobyte cartridges, or developing mappers that could allow for even larger ones. And so the potential there was essentially squandered. And whereas with the NES, which of course is part of the discussion in that video and its power and all that, although this is getting off the power side a little bit, the NES is very, very well known for using a number of mappers, the most popular of which was called the MMC3, which was used in most of the Mega Man games, used in Super Mario Bros. 2 and 3 and countless other NES titles. There was a more powerful mapper than that called the MMC5, which is used in like Castlevania 3, and that did enhance a lot of the base abilities of the NES, but it seems like it's okay to point out those games as to what the NES could do. But if you bring anything like that up with the 7800, you can't, because it wasn't done commercially. But I don't agree with that position, and so that's why I've got Rikki and Vikki up here. Now, I used this in that video, as I think this is an amazing example of what the 7800 could do if it had an MMC3-like mapper chip inside of it, which it does. And so if you go to Tail Chow's website, or Penguin Net's website, who was the developer of this game, he has a section on the Supermapper. There's also a thread on Atari Age where he lays out the features, and it is essentially trying to mimic the MMC3's feature set, but just tailored for the Atari 7800 Pro system. And so in many regards, there are some similarities there as far as how much ROM space can be used, as well as additional RAM and things like that. Again, just like the MMC3 did. One difference, of course, because it is tailored to the 7800, is the optional Maria fetch redirection, with several fixed routes and 2 kilobyte pages on A7 boundaries, which, as he says in the paragraph afterwards, that's the most useful aspect of the mapper. It detects when Maria is using the bus and gives her a separate mapping setup than Sally. Sally would be the 6502 CPU, which makes catering to the Maria's unique features much easier. As far as I understand, from what I've read and others that have talked to about the 7800, the Maria was a very strong bus hog, and that matters as to what you can throw up on the screen. And so by having a mapper that, I guess, frees up some of that, that's what allows you to pull off things like you see here with Rikki and Vikki. And again, this uses the Atari 7800's high resolution mode. I believe it was the 320B mode, and by using this mapper, which again, if somebody was able to go and get the MMC3 or develop an MMC3-like chip back in the 80s, that would have been entirely feasible to do. Obviously, Nintendo would have protected using the MMC3 itself there, but again, if you just aimed for the same features back then you could have made it work, and thus had a game like Rikki and Vikki if you wanted to. And so that's, again, why I think it's totally fair to use this, and saying this is what the 7800 could do. What you've been seeing here has been captured directly from my Atari 7800 Pro system. This is not through emulator. I also filmed this with a camera off screen on my CRT, so you can kind of see it too, but of course the glow from the screen, the bloom from the screen makes it a little difficult to see certain things like the color mixing on the rocks. But now one thing that I can concede is that the sound as it is exactly with this release probably would not have existed back in the 80s. However, with the caveat is that the 7800 could have used one of those famous Yamaha synthesizer chips. Like, I think it was the Sega Master System had an FM synth sound chip module, and many arcade games used these Yamaha FM synthesizer chips, and the 7800 could have done that just like the well, anything else, and so that could, or like the Pokey, I should say, and so that again I think makes it totally fair game to say that, well, might not have had the exact same sound, but you, with a good musician, you could have had similar sounds just using one of those FM chips. But certainly the graphics could have been done like that back in the day. Yes, it might have made the cartridge a little bit more expensive, but I don't see why it would have cost, like, say, hundreds or thousands of dollars to do that had Atari developed a mapper chip that would have done similar features. And from my understanding too, if with that mapper, which Tail Chow had released public so other homebrew developers could use it if they so wish, that would make it so that you could do even more stuff with the 160 lower resolution modes, I think, adding more color and things like that. But yeah, that's my defense of the 7800. Again, I think this is a great example to use as to what the 7800 could really do, and I think this game looks a lot like an NES game, in some regards a little bit better because the resolution's higher and it does some great things with the effects. There's no flicker. There's large sprites, as you'll see here in a second, and just overall this is a fantastic looking game. But it's not the only great looking game. As was pointed out in Poger's video, there's Bentley Bear's Crystal Quest, which does some great things with color and parallax scrolling and all that, and so that's also a very worthy one, I think, to mention. But as far as I know, that one just uses extra RAM. I don't think it uses any mapper chip that does anything with the Maria and the Sally chips on the 7800. But regardless, you know, in the right hands, any console can do more than what it was originally designed for. And that's why I guess we care about these things, we talk about these things, enjoy talking about these things, is that you know, when it came to Atari, there was just always this, well, could it do this, could it do that? And the homebrew scene has shown, yes, it could do, these systems could do this or that. There's been some amazing homebrews on the Atari 2600 that really push it beyond the limits, but there were some great commercial releases like Solaris that also showed that it could do far more than combat. But anyways, that's my thoughts and defense, I guess you could say, on Rikki and Vikki and using that as an example. Do you agree with that assertion? Disagree? What do you think about the 7800 capabilities from seeing this game in action? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next one.